Welcome to Against Grain, episode 3. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about Jacob's background. As the host of this podcast, the intro series part of that is kind of introducing you to Jacob, his background, and what kind of got him to this point from early life to where he's at now. So Jacob, welcome to Against Grain.
Thank you.
So Jacob, obviously we're still kicking this podcast off. It's only episode 3. I think, we kind of breezed over your background and stuff like that, but I know our backgrounds are obviously very similar, but if you could kind of just start, kind of early on, tell the listeners, a little bit about your early life, early jobs, and kind of what started you in your trajectory towards the military.
Yeah, so I graduated high school in 2013. Prior to that, I worked in high school, worked a few different jobs. I started, same with you, I started working in high school, at our high school, because we weren't old enough to actually work, but they had some kind of work program where allowed high school students to work after school and make some money. So started doing that. Obviously, kind of similar to you, it's kind of weird working at your high school after hours. However, I think both of us always had a desire to try to work and make money and try to grow. So that's kind of why we did that. And with that, I continued to work some small jobs after that prior to joining the military. I joined the military in 2013 after I graduated high school. And that was really my first, real job going into my adult life. Never really had anyone in our family that was super heavy in the military. Obviously, we had a couple family members in the military, but it wasn't really very influential in our childhood like some people that joined the military.
Well, let me rewind and ask you that. What was the reason you wanted to go to the military? What age did you decide, hey, I want to go to the military, and what was kind of the driving factor of why you wanted to join the military? Because obviously you were also in the Explorer program and wanted to be a police officer, but what kind of deviated that course and where you wanted to go to the military first?
Well, I was in an Explorer program for the Orange County Sheriff's Department, same with you, but I kind of knew that, hey, the earliest you can go to the academy is 20 and a half. That's the earliest you can go. And I was like, well, I'll be out of the military by the time I'm 22 if I do 4 years. I'll have military experience, and I can still join the police academy or go to the police academy as early as 22, 23 years old. I knew that basically it wasn't going to be a big deterrence. So yeah. I already had the military in my mind. I don't really remember exactly what it was. I remember it was around 10th grade. I kind of wanted to start looking towards the military. And I think really it was one of our older brother's friends that had joined, or he was in our OTC program for the Marine Corps. And I didn't really know a lot about the Marine Corps. We didn't really grow up in a military family. Didn't really know what the Marine Corps was. But once I started learning about it, I just sounded like something I wanted to do. I've always been kind of attracted to that side of things, things that are a little bit more, I guess, considered more difficult in life and going to challenge you more. So that's why I was kind of drawn towards the Marine Corps specifically. But nothing really that stands out to me that why I want to join the military. I just... I've always been kind of in that mindset of, military, law enforcement, and the military was just a good option for me at the time.
And for young people listening, because I know that we have kind of a wide range of listeners from people that are young to older, but for younger listeners that are maybe thinking about going to the military or anything like that, is it something that you just, graduated high school and you went and joined the Marine Corps, or did you have a preparation program for the military? How did that work for you?
So it wasn't really a specific program that I did. I mean, so they have the delayed entry program or the DEP, where you're a poolee. So for people that don't know, basically a poolee is someone that is going to join the military. You go to MEPS, you do you enlist, you get your contract, and then you start going as a poolee to your poolee function once a week, and you do PT, things like that. But honestly, the DEP program, it's good, but it's really for people that have no guidance on what to do. Obviously, throughout being in the Explorer program and things like that, I kind of found different kind of workout routines. I started with high school basketball, just regular lifting, and then kind of got into CrossFit after that and did a ton of CrossFit in high school, which really helped me get ready for the Marine Corps specifically because I couldn't do more than probably 4 pull-ups before 10th grade. Yeah. And then I just would do things like that workout Cindy for people don't know, it's 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 air squats for 20 minutes, as many rounds as possible. And I would just do that every single day. So I would do things like that to prepare myself for the military. But I don't think I really had to set program that did that.
It was more of a self-led program. Because I know before you left for the military, you were doing 25 pull-ups probably before you left. You were doing well over 20 pull-ups, on a pull-up bar. And I know that's a standard in the military for, different physical fitness programs. Pull-ups is a large part of that testing process. Okay, so you join as a poolee. What age can you actually sign to join the military or go to MEPS?
So you could go to MEPS, I believe, when you're 16, because you can only be in the DEP for a year, the delayed entry program for a year, and you can go to the boot camp when you're 17. So technically, as long as you're graduated by the time you're 17, obviously most people don't graduate on their 17th birthday or when they're 16. But technically, if you were graduated by 17 or have your GED or whatever it may be, you could be in a delayed entry program by the time you're 16.
Okay. So you joined the delayed entry program when you were 17 then? Right?
So I didn't. And obviously, it's kind of something we can get into later, but our stepfather didn't want me to join the military. He was very against me joining the military. So I went to MEPS on probably January 26th or January 27th, and our birthday is the 25th.
Yeah.
I went 1 or 2 days after my 18th birthday because at the end of the day, someone wasn't going to tell me what I was going to do as an adult. That was what I wanted to do. That was a decision I made. And I'm still happy with that decision today. It's just because it wasn't what he wanted or wasn't his life or wasn't what he would do.
Yeah.
And that was obviously I wasn't gonna listen to that. I've never been that person to listen to someone else as far as what they want for my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I forgot about that until you mentioned that. It's crazy, but we'll get into that more later. But so kind of moving into you joining the military, so obviously they call it MOS. What does MOS stand for? I know that's like a job
Military
type.
Occupational Specialty.
Okay. So you're basically
it's your job
in the military. And what MOS, did you pick your MOS when you enlisted, or did you get assigned an MOS after boot camp?
Yeah, so I knew a guy, he was a major in the Marine Corps at the time, and he told me, hey dude, don't be a grunt, don't be a grunt, don't be a grunt. And for people that don't know, a grunt's a 03 or infantryman. And because he was in the military, he was a major. And I was like, okay, I kind of listened to him. I took my ASVAB. I did well on my ASVAB. I'm not the smartest dude in the room, but I can at least get pretty much pick a litter of jobs in the military. It's not that crazy for the ASVAB, So I initially picked an intel job, and I remember that I was gonna sign it, and I don't know what it was. It's just it's not. Again, it's kind of goes back to joining the military. It's not what I want. I was just trying to listen to other people, like, oh, this might be good advice and that. So I ended up not signing the intel package, and I was like, you know what, I want to be an O3. So basically, you get an O3XX contract. So O3XX meaning O3 open or infantry open contract.
So any job in the infantry.
So you're going to go to the infantry, you're going to go to SOI, and then you get your MOS. You either pick your MOS or they pick you for your MOS once you get to SOI. So you're not picking specifically O311, O331, O341. The only thing you can pick specifically is a recon contract. But pretty much everything else in the military, or as far as the infantry goes, is O3XX.
So obviously going to boot camp, obviously there's movies and stories and all kinds of stuff about Marine Corps boot camp. What was that like? I think, graduating high school and then going from obviously never being in an environment like that realistically to, day one being in Marine Corps boot camp.
It's a weird feeling, dude, because you get there and, I think the big thing in the military that's super weird is when you get there, you have no idea where you're going to be at for the next 4 years. You don't know if you're going to deploy somewhere. You don't know where you're going to get stationed at. You have no idea what's in store for the next 4 years. Most things, college, police academy, at least you have an idea. Hey, I'll be home every night. Hey, I'm going to work for this agency. Hey, I'm going to go to this school, and then I'm going to try to work for this job. Like, military, you get there day one, and that's probably the weirdest thing when you join the military is you have no idea what to expect. You have no idea what you're going to do for the next 4 years. You have no idea.
And do you think that your preparation, like mentally and physically, prepared you opposed to other people that were in boot camp?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Prior to boot camp, they have something called the initial strength test. And obviously, I don't know if it's the same standards now. I know the PFT has gotten a little bit harder as far as like you need to do more pull-ups now, things like that. But they've also changed things. But when I joined, before you go to boot camp, you have the initial strength test. The initial strength test is in a 1.5 mile run. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's all you have to be able to do is a 1.5 mile run. And I was going on 10-mile runs before I joined the military. And even the PFT is a 3-mile run. So, I think I was significantly prepared. I knew all my general orders. I knew the rank structure of the Marine Corps. Like, dude, if you just apply yourself and prepare beforehand, I didn't get messed with. I didn't. Like, it wasn't that boot camp sucks for everybody because you're away from home, you're on your feet 16 hours a day, you're getting yelled at, you're going here, you're going there, you're doing what you're told. But just like the police academy, and you know this, if you aren't prepared, you will be singled out and you will get messed with the whole time.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't. I wasn't messed with.
And how many people are in your, what do they call it, a platoon?
Platoon, yeah.
So how many people are in your platoon in boot camp?
So you have a company. The company starts at the same time. They'll graduate at the same time. So you graduate as a company. And then within that company, I believe there's 6 platoons, if I remember correctly. And in each platoon, there's about 80 to 90 Marines or recruits at the time.
And do most people make it through, or because obviously police academy is super different where you could quit, but when you enlist for the Marine Corps, you're not just walking off the job. You sign a contract with the U.S. military.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People try to compare the police academy, it's a higher attrition rate. And yeah, it is. But I think it's very different too because you have a military contract. So they are doing everything they can to get people to pass. And they're not making it where it's, it's not special operations. It's not buds. It's Marine Corps boot camp, dude. You know what I mean? Their attrition rate's very low. There's people that refuse to train. They'll get out. Medical right at the beginning. Will get out medical during. And then things in the beginning, like basically people lied to join. Say whatever their background is, they might have said something different, and they get to boot camp and they have this thing called like moment of truth, where you have your last chance to tell the truth before you'll get charged or you'll go to jail. They threaten all these things, and some people are like, okay, I lied,
But it's
I
also
did
like
this.
a way out for people.
It is.
Yeah.
And there's people that pop on the piss test, you know what I mean? Which is crazy because it's like, dude, you can't stop smoking weed a month before you go to boot camp. Like, you're going to go to boot camp. Like, you know they're going to drug test you. So you have things like that. But as far as attrition rate from just like not being able to do it doesn't happen very often. Usually it's either they just completely flat out refuse to train, it's medical, or something like background or, drug test.
Yeah. And then so when you graduate boot camp, you obviously, everybody graduates as a private.
So everyone graduates as a private. There's different ways you can pick up PFC. PFC can be picked up either through recruiting. So if you say you recruit like a friend or two, I don't remember the number, but Marine Corps, if you get 2 other people to join, Marine Corps will give you private first class when you graduate boot camp.
That's cool.
You can also get that if you're the guidon bearer. You can get that if you're a squad leader. I was a squad leader, so I just ended up getting PFC out of boot camp, which was cool because the first couple ranks in the military, or the Marine Corps at least, it's just based on time in.
So you already kind of surpassed that first time lapse.
Yep. So I'm already ahead of the game when I graduate boot camp, which is cool. It helps you for the next step.
So obviously, I know you went to boot camp. You went to MCRD San Diego.
Went to MCRD San Diego for boot camp.
Grew up in Southern California. So you got like 10 days off after that?
So you usually get 10 days boot leave. I got like 30. It wasn't all boot leave. I had 10 days of leave, and then I had 20 days of recruiting assistance. And it was just because like SOI was backed at that time. I mean, I graduated boot camp on December 20th. Yeah. So I wasn't going to, like, they were just backed up from the holidays where they weren't starting enough SOI cycles at the time. So basically they forced people to be home longer, but they're like, hey, we're not going to give you 30 days of leave. So instead, you're going to take your 10 days and then you're going to go work at the recruiting station for 20 days.
So they give you an assignment basically.
But it's cool because I was still home for 30 days.
So then SOI is obviously, I know it's School of Infantry. How long is that?
So it depends on where you go in SOI. So if you're an 03, you go to ITB. If you're
because everybody goes to SOI, right? All Marines.
Everyone goes to SOI. If you're a POG, you go to MCT, Marine Combat Training. Okay. If you're an 03, you go to ITB, Infantry Training Battalion.
And what's the difference? Just the length of it?
The length of it, the how in depth you get, and even like ITB, you can only get so far in depth in 8 weeks. Like ITB is 8 weeks. I believe MCT is maybe 3, maybe 4.
And is that when they assign your MOS, or they assign your MOS upon graduation?
Yeah. So basically, what happens is you go to ITB. The first 4 weeks is basic infantry training. So you're doing just basic stuff. It's just basic infantry training, whether it's land nav, fighting positions, things like that. Once you get to that 4-week mark, they call it the split. So at the split, you get divided into your MOSs. So you get divided into 0311s, 0341s, 0331s, 0351s, which is no longer an MOS, and 0352s.
What are 41s? Or 40, so what is, so I know 0311s or riflemen.
0311s are riflemen.
31s, machine gunners. Mm-hmm. And what's 41 and
0341's a mortarman, 0351 is an assaultman, which is no longer an MOS in the Marine Corps, and then 0352 is anti-tank missileman.
Okay. And so you obviously got assigned to a machine gun section.
So you volunteer. You have to have a certain GT score too, because some people they'll have a list of who has what GT scores, because every MOS has a different requirement of what your GT score from your ASVAB needs to be.
Your GT being your ASVAB score?
So they have the ASVAB, they have like different like parts of the ASVAB. Well, they'll have different scores. I don't really remember exactly which one
it's like different sections of the test.
Correct. And it basically applies for different MOSs.
Got it.
Based on the proficiency you need and the knowledge you need. So GT score is very common in infantry MOSs. So that's what they utilize a lot of times. So usually like machine gunner, it's a little bit higher of a GT score. It's nothing significant. But I mean, some people just won't be able to be a machine gunner, but they can be a rifleman. So, and they have a limited space because you need a lot of riflemen. You don't need a lot of weapons, guys.
Yeah.
So basically take volunteers. You volunteer to be a machine gunner, mortarman, assaultman, anti-tank missileman. If it's over their number they need, they'll either decide who they want or they'll decide who to kick out.
And obviously for people that were never in the military or don't have any idea what that is, a machine gunner is basically you carry big ass guns that fire rapid fire.
Yeah, so Marine Corps, like the big 4 that we use is the M249, or a lot of people know it as a SAW, squad automatic weapon. M240 Bravo, that's a medium machine gun. The M250 Cal, which is a heavy machine gun. And a Mark 19, which is a heavy machine gun, but it shoots grenades.
And how many rounds are like an average machine gun putting out like at a time, like per minute?
It depends. A burst. I mean, you're shooting a 6-round burst, but like a 240 or Depends on the rate of fire, especially if it's something like a M240 Golf. You can basically change the gas regulator on it to change the rate of fire. But usually around 650 per
minute?
Yeah, 650. That's cyclic rate. But then like Mark 19, which is still crazy, is about like 325 rounds a minute, I believe. But that's 325 rounds of 40 mic high explosive rounds per minute.
That's
so
crazy,
I mean, it is like, but obviously you would never shoot at the cyclic rate.
No,
you'll melt your barrel.
Yeah, but it's capable of doing
Its capability.
that.
Yeah,
That's crazy. Okay, so you go to SOI, you get assigned the machine gun section, and then so once you get out of SOI, is that when you then get assigned your what do they call it, duty station, or like where you're actually going to be for the next 4
so
years?
it's like right before you graduate.
Or your unit, I guess.
Right before you graduate, they're just like, hey, this is the list and this is where you're going. I mean, I don't know how it is really. I know some MOSs you can kind of like get your wish list. The infantry, they don't give a shit.
Well, and
it's just this is where you're going.
You could have went to Pendleton, like that's a big Marine Corps base, it would have been nice, but you didn't.
No, and even within my group of like machine gunners, I think there was probably like 21 of us. And the first two names in the alphabet stayed at Pendleton.
Okay.
And the rest of the list, so if your name was below the letter A, pretty much you went to Camp Lejeune.
Which is North Carolina.
North Carolina, yeah.
Yeah. So you go to North Carolina. Like, what'd you do there? Obviously, I know you went to a few like deployments just overseas to Okinawa, right?
Yeah.
But during that time, I obviously know you promoted. You did a lot there. What was your time like actually in the machine gun section over the next like 3 years?
So, it's the infantry is a different world as far as the Marine Corps goes with how you're treated, especially as a boot. I got there as a Lance Corporal because I graduated SOI as a machine gun section leader. So they gave me Lance Corporal. So I was, again, like kind of coming out of boot camp.
Promotion.
Yeah. And usually, people won't get that till about a year and a half in. And I'm 6 months in, I'm a Lance Corporal. And I'm going to the fleet where pretty much all my seniors being guys that have already deployed, and you get there and you're the new guy, you're the boot. So
yeah.
All my seniors are pretty much Lance Corporals. Some of them are corporals, but I'm a Lance Corporal.
And you just got there.
And I just got there. But it doesn't mean anything because I'm still a boot.
Yeah. Well, it's like,
and just doesn't.
It's almost like, and I only thing I can relate it to is like in law enforcement, like we're still both police officers. I have no rank, but I've been here for 3, 4, 5 years, and you just got to the academy. It's like similar where you have similar ranking, but obviously when you start talking about like just like reputation and what you like, almost what you've earned there is like you haven't earned anything because you're the new guy.
Yeah, and you're not really treated differently. Like, again, I wasn't really messed with a whole lot because I was good at what I did and I was not an idiot.
Yeah.
But I was still a boot.
Yeah.
So I still said, yes, Lance Corporal, I Lance Corporal.
Yeah.
Even though I was Lance Corporal, I still referred to them.
Game.
Yeah, I played the game and I still had to refer to them as Lance Corporal. I still had to do what they told me, even though I was the same rank as them. And people listening to this might be like, that's fucking dumb. Like, I would never do that. Okay. You've never been in the Marine Corps Infantry. Because I guarantee you step foot in the Marine Corps Infantry as a boot, you'll do what you're told. And if you don't do what you're told, you're going to be the outcast.
Yeah.
You just do what you're told. You're all boots. It's how it goes. You'll have boots one day. It's part of the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
It's part of the Marine Corps Infantry.
Well, and I think that's with like any job really. I think that's something that like, and it's military especially, but I think in this world that like just of the workforce in general nowadays, people get into these new jobs and it's just all this complete sense of entitlement that I don't have to do that. I don't have to do this. Like, dude, you're brand new here. Just come in and be eager to learn. Mm-hmm. Just say yes, sir, and be eager to learn.
Well, that's what really built me for every other career is, I can walk into any environment now at whatever age, whatever stage of life. And if I'm the new guy, I can accept that role and I'm okay with that.
But people recognize it.
Yeah.
People see that. And if you're the guy, like you said, that isn't doing that, you're very quickly singled out and you become an outcast.
You make yourself more of a target because you're trying to basically, you're trying to, I don't know, these guys have been there. They've earned their spot and you haven't earned shit. And now you're coming in and you think you deserve the same thing as everybody else that have put in work to be there. That doesn't make any sense. You haven't done anything. Why do you deserve this?
Yeah. Well, I think that kind of goes into your, like, obviously the leaders you had in the military. I know you talk about a lot, like the leaders that you had, the people that you were surrounded by, people that had like legitimate, like hardcore, deployments and stuff like that. And then I know you promoted pretty quickly. So how did you pick up corporal and then sergeant? Because I know obviously there's a bunch of different ways to get promoted. I know you have like what they call meritorious promotions, like you got kind of boot camp and SOI.
Yeah, so you have meritorious promotions and obviously you just have your regular promotions. So PFC and Lance Corporal is just time and grade. So you have a certain amount of time in as a private, you don't get NJP, you don't get in trouble, you get PFC. Same thing with Lance Corporal, from PFC to Lance Corporal. Now, Corporal and Sergeant, they're based on cutting scores. Cutting scores is determined by the Marine Corps based on the needs of the Marine Corps. It's kind of like how supply and demand works in economics. If there's a higher demand for corporals in that MOS, the cutting score will be lower. So it'll be more attainable so that more people can promote. If they have a lot of corporals in that MOS, the cutting score will be higher. It's just simple.
Yeah.
It's just how it works for anything.
Well, it reminds me like even like when we like working in law enforcement, like when they need more sergeants, guess what? Now you only got to be a police officer for 5 years. It used to be 10. It's the same idea or whatever it is,
Yeah. So, I mean, I went on a UDP unit deployment program to Okinawa while I was there. I was fortunate enough to be able to be selected to go to advanced machine guns with one of my someone in my section. So me and only one other guy in my peer group were able to go to advanced machine guns in my section.
And what's advanced machine guns?
So advanced machine guns, it's basically just a much more in depth of machine gun training. So it used to be like a squad leader's course. They kind of changed it to a little bit to like more of a team leader's course now. But I mean, you just basically for 6 weeks you just get your dick kicked in.
Is that like so if it's like a squad leader course, is that like their intent to promote you out of that? Like, is their intent like, hey, we're sending you here because we're looking for you to promote?
Yeah, I mean, they're not sending their shit bags to AMGC.
Yeah,
there's only so because I got to remember AMGC they have 4 classes a year for the East Coast. They have 4 classes a year for the West Coast. Like there's
how many are in that class?
30
so
for the entire East Coast.
So like 120 people. So 240 people a year are going through the Marine Corps Advanced Machine Gun School.
Yeah, and you got to remember that's for every infantry battalion on the East Coast. So each battalion only gets a certain amount of seats for each class.
Yeah.
So to go is you have to be. You can't be a shitbag if you want to go to advanced school. Now, advanced school sucks. It just does. You're in the class. You're either in the classroom or you're PTing or you're in the field. I mean, I would get there at 4:45 every morning for PT. That was our start time. We'd get done PTing about 7:45, go change, get breakfast, and we'd be in the classroom until about 5. Like, it was just every day.
Jeez.
And you just get murdered.
So who are the instructors like for those courses?
So these instructors are usually like sergeants and staff sergeants. They've been SOI instructors. They went to go be an SOI instructor. And, again, being a advanced machine gun instructor, they're not picking their shit bags. Like those guys are legit machine gunners that are, know what they're doing, know what they're talking about. So they're usually pretty decent leaders in that MOS that go to that school to be instructors. So I went to AMGC. I was still a Lance Corporal at the time. Shortly after AMGC, I'd been put on a corporal board. I put on a meritorious board. There's a few different things. And I ended up winning a corporal's board. The only thing is, so I was supposed to pick up meritorious boards are always on the second of the month. So I was supposed to pick up meritorious corporal in the second. But kind of like what we talked about cutting scores, my cutting score had just hit that month as well. So my first sergeant basically came to me and he was like, hey, you can pick up on the first regularly or you can pick up on the second meritoriously. Now, meritoriously sounds better, but if I took the one on the second, I'd be taking a spot from someone else that could get promoted meritoriously because they also only push out so many meritorious promotions every quarter. So he's like, hey, we're looking at someone else that we could promote meritoriously. He's like, if you want the meritorious promotion, like you can keep it, but if you don't get it, like you're gonna pick up on the first anyway.
Like that following month.
Basically. The following month, and I was just like, dude, I'll just pick up on the first. Like hey, give it to someone else.
Yeah, you're getting promoted because of your score. We can give this to somebody else that we think deserves it.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna take it from someone else when I was going to pick up anyway.
Yeah.
So technically I got a meritorious board for corporal, but on paper I picked up on the first. I picked up regular just for my cutting score. So I picked up corporal for my regular cutting score. Ended up being a machine gun section leader. It's kind of weird how the Marine Corps did it at the time. It was like you were like a squad leader / section leader because they had tried to get rid of the section leader billet, which is a whole nother thing I could get into. And I don't think I agree with. I think it's a really poor choice. You can't control fires of an entire machine gun section as a squad leader because someone has to step up and be the section leader. So they were trying to like basically dual hat it. The Marine Corps just threw the billets. So I was a machine gun section leader. I was a squad leader as well. Kind of did both. So I was a corporal for about a year, I want to say. And then I started getting put in on more meritorious boards. Ended up picking up meritorious sergeant when I was in Okinawa the second time. And it was great. I mean, it was cool. We were there in Okinawa. I got picked up meritorious sergeant. My machine gun squad, we won our battalion squad comp. We went to division squad comp. So, I mean, we had a lot of good opportunities. We did really well. I had a lot of really good guys in my section. And, I mean, obviously I'm very biased, but I feel like we were a very, very, very talented machine gun section. I mean, we won it through battalion. We unfortunately got second in division, and it was because one of my guys couldn't run. We got first in 22 of the 23 events, but they weighted the PT score so heavily that we got second place. So, I mean, we were a solid machine gun section, so I was very fortunate to have those guys as well. But yeah, I mean, it was great, dude. I had a good time in the Marine Corps. I did very well, and I think it's obviously not just because, I mean, it's people could say it's luck, it's this or that, but at the end of the day, dude, the biggest thing is I just put in extra work. Yeah. It's just as simple as that.
Well, I think that like coming out of the military, like as you start talking about getting out of the military, I don't know how much you want to talk about this, but I know that you sustained a pretty gnarly injury in the Marine Corps that kind of, I guess, affected the next few years of your life, but also I think really defined how you pushed yourself coming out of the Marine Corps.
Yeah, so I broke my ankle coming down that haste rappel, and it was a pretty significant injury. I didn't even know what bone it was that I broke, or never even heard of it when they told me you broke your talus. I've never heard of a talus bone, but essentially it's your joint on your ankle that controls all the movement of your foot, and all your weight sits on it, and I pretty much just completely demolished it. And they had to put a cadaver bone on my foot. I have 6 or 7 pins and screws in my ankle still there today, and it was just a significant injury. And the doctor told me, he's like, hey dude, what are you gonna do when you get out of the Marine Corps, because you're not gonna stay in? And I was like, well, I was planning on being a police officer. And he's like, well, that's not gonna happen either. And he told me that he'd be very shocked if I was able to walk without a cane for the rest of my life. I wasn't really honestly concerned at the time, because I was like, dude, there's no way, bro. There's no way I'm never going to be able to walk without a cane. Like, that's not going to happen.
You didn't even understand the extent of your injury at that point.
Well, I didn't understand the extent, but I also was just like, dude, I'm gonna walk without a cane, bro. Like, yeah. I'm not gonna walk with a cane for the rest of my life. Like, I'll figure it out. And obviously I still have bad nights, and me and you talk about it, where I do still use a cane some nights. It's just, my ankle still, it's messed up. It's not a good, I don't have good condition in my ankle, but obviously I was determined to that not be the case for my life. And I had like 3 months of no weight bearing, and then 3 months after that I had to wear a boot. But pretty shortly after that I started running, and it wasn't really running, it was kind of me walking fast and dragging my left leg behind. But I started at like 4 miles per hour, and I couldn't go any faster than that, and I just slowly built up from there, kind of broke up some more scar tissue the best I could. And I was able to run to the extent where I was like, okay, I can be a cop. I can go to the academy. Obviously that was going to be dependent on if people hired me with that injury, but I knew I was capable of it at that point.
One, I think that's like a very important thing for a lot of people, because I think a lot of people, they have shitty things happen to them in life, and things that are in no one's control, right? Things just happen in life sometimes, but people allow those things to happen, and then it alters the entire course of their life. It's not what they want anymore. It's just, this is my situation. This sucks. Rather than like, no, I'm not going to allow this situation to change what I'm going to do with my life, or what my path is,
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. People let their circumstances dictate their life. Yeah. And you can't do that. You have to dictate your circumstances.
Yeah, because everybody's going to have shitty things happen to them. It's part of life. You're going to have things that don't go your way. But how do you respond to those is important. So obviously you get injured. You're still in the Marine Corps. So when did you end up getting out of the Marine Corps?
So I got put on a med board, and long story short, basically, I talked to a lot of doctors. They were basically like, hey, dude, you're not going to get medically retired. The only thing that's going to happen with your med board is you're probably going to get a severance pay. You're not going to be able to stay in the Marine Corps, but it's not going to be a high enough percentage to get a retirement. So I said, okay, well, to me, a severance pay of $10,000, $15,000 isn't even worth it for my discharge to say I was medically discharged, because I wanted to be a cop still. Yeah. And I wanted to be a cop. I was planning on being a cop for the rest of my life. And I didn't want a one-time payment of 10 or 15 grand to disqualify me from ever being able to be a cop. Yeah. So I fought the med board. They put me on a med board. I fought the med board. And they were obviously kind of confused, because people don't fight med boards. Like, why are you going to say no to $15,000, even if it is just a severance? But, I had my own reasons, obviously. So I was able to get off the med board, but they're like, hey, you still can't stay in the Marine Corps. So it pushed back my date to get out of the Marine Corps a little bit. I was supposed to get out in September of 2017. Ended up getting out in December of 2017 because I was on the med board, off the med board, EES dates changed, things like that. But during that time, I had applied to Orange County Sheriff's Department. Like, the real crappy thing is I applied and I took my medical in about October of 2017. And I was I was in contact with my background investigator, because I wanted to know, hey, did I pass medical? Because that was my biggest concern. Yeah. And instead of him actively seeking out the information, it was more so, and I found this out later because he didn't tell me this at the time, but I found out later that it was just like, oh, well, I didn't hear from them, so I just figured you passed.
It's laziness.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I saw too. And I went through a few backgrounds with that agency. I went through 3 backgrounds with that agency with my different positions that I worked at Orange County Sheriff's. And unfortunately, if you don't have someone in your corner, like, they have just so many people coming through. Dude, a lot of them, and I'm not saying all of them, I'm sure there's some good background investigators there, but a lot of them could care less about the people coming through. They're just trying to fill spots.
It's a numbers game.
It's a numbers game. So, but then it goes back to laziness, because if your job is to hire people and you have a good applicant, why are you not following up to make sure their packet is ready to go so they can go to the academy?
Well, and the messed up thing too is kind of like what you said. Like, that dude didn't care about me. I had put all my chips in that basket. I didn't apply for any jobs. He told me, you're going to the academy in February. Like I was slotted, apparently, or I thought I was, to go to the academy in February. He told me I was going to the academy in February. When I got out of the Marine Corps in December, I started going to mentoring classes. We call them mentoring. They prepare you for the academy with Orange County Sheriffs in January.
Yeah.
Still under the impression I'm going to the academy next month. So I got out of the Marine Corps. I didn't apply for any other jobs because I was like, oh, I can not have a job for a month. That's cool.
I'm prepping for the academy.
Prepping for the academy. I'm going to have a job in a month.
Yeah.
And then end of January hits, and it's probably when they started putting everything together, start actually putting their people together who they're going to send to the academy. And I got a phone call from him and said, hey, you didn't pass medical. And I was like, dude, like he could have told me this 3 months ago. Like it still sucks regardless, but at least I would have gotten a fucking job.
And you have some sort of plan. So, and then that's why I think it kind of leads to like kind of the next thing. I know you had a few different jobs after the Marine Corps before you ended up going to law enforcement. But I think a lot of people, especially in the military, and I think this goes for, like for me when I left law enforcement, but when you leave, you almost lack a sense of purpose.
Yeah. And, I think it's really sad because I think a big part of like veteran suicide is because of that. I think it's because you just lose your lack of purpose and you feel kind of worthless. And I did. I felt like a loser, bro. I had shitty jobs. I worked at 24-hour fitness and they didn't give me enough hours. I didn't work enough, so I didn't make enough. And I was still applying to other agencies at the time, but I need to make money. So I worked pest control. That sucked. But the only reason I did that is because they gave me like 60 hours a week. And I made like $14 an hour, which was decent at the time. This was 2017.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit higher at the time, or 2018, I'm sorry. 2018. But dude, like I felt like a loser, bro. I was a sergeant in the Marine Corps. I was a machine gun section leader. And I come out and I'm doing some bullshit jobs with guys that have no purpose in life and guys have no end game. They're just going to do this the rest of their life.
Yeah.
It's really demoralizing.
Well, I think it's hard for people getting out of like those spaces, especially like I said, military, law enforcement, like where your job is like, hey, dude, I'm a badass with a machine gun section. I can run rates of fire. I know how to do different operations. I can do like I have tactical training. I have all this training, but how does it apply to the real world? And you feel like, dude, it doesn't apply. Like when are you going to use that? Any other job really other than being a cop.
But I knew like my work ethic and I knew my leadership ability, and
Yeah.
obviously that has plenty of carryover. But people don't understand that.
People don't
sometimes.
see it.
People
That's
don't
the hard
see
thing
that.
to sell. Yeah.
So anyways, so I worked all those jobs. I finally got hired by Santa Ana PD, who you had just applied to lateral to shortly after I got out. You had started with Santa Ana, I think late 2018.
Yep.
And I ended up going to the academy with Santa Ana in 2019 and or like mid 2019. So it was a long setback for me getting out of the military. It was about a year and a half when I was expecting to go to the academy within a month after.
Yeah.
And it was because of my ankle and it was because of poor background investigators that basically just couldn't give me a simple update.
Well, I think the difference with Santa Ana is I will say like Santa Ana has a lot of good and a lot of bad with it. But the good is it is a smaller agency and they expect to hire premier applicants. So if you are a premier applicant, they'll do everything in their power to get you pushed through to that next step.
They have more pick up the litter, unlike what you were saying, like Orange County Sheriff. Orange County Sheriff's a number game, bro. They need bodies. They have a ton of spots to fill. They need to hire a ton of people.
Yep.
Santa Ana, yeah, they want to fill spots, but a lot of people are applying, so they can kind of pick who they want.
Yeah, because they have good pay. They have good benefits. They're one of the top paid in Orange County. They have good benefits. They used to have a really good culture. So people want to work there. People want to go to the agency like that. So,
yeah, and I had a good background investigator too. Like he really did help me and made sure like he actually did his job as a background investigator to get people hired that were good.
To advocate for you. Mm-hmm. So you get hired, you end up going to the academy, and you go to the Orange County Sheriff's Academy, which is kind of funny because they didn't hire you because Santa Ana puts their guys through the Sheriff's Academy. How did you perform in the academy?
I did well in the academy. I graduated as top recruit. I think I got 5 of the 6 awards, and I graduated as class sergeant, as class assistant. I graduated as class assistant, but it was a good time, dude. And it wasn't because I was anything special. It's kind of like I said with the Marine Corps. I'm not the smartest dude in the room. I'm not, but I'll work harder than most people in the room, and that's the difference.
And I think preparation is such a key thing in any job, law enforcement, military, anything you're doing, because at the end of the day, like when you go to the academy, if you're come prepared where like, let's say just basic stuff like police codes, you're physically in shape and you're mentally prepared, then when you have to start learning crime elements, Fourth Amendment, how to actually now apply these things in the field, you can actually absorb that information because you're not trying to learn what you should have learned before you came.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. It's just I was extremely prepared. I would kill myself in cycles. So cycles being, push-ups, squat thrusts, mountain climbers, and sit-ups, and I would do dude, I would do 1,300 reps at a time total. Like I would just crush myself in cycles. And you know, going to the academy, what's the most amount of reps you'll do at one time? Say even if you did 5 cycles, what is that? 500 reps?
Like 500 reps.
And that's a lot of cycles.
And you probably, if you're like, they call it the beach or, you know, like where the sand's at, you're not doing more than 10.
No.
I mean, you're doing like sprints and stuff with it, but you're not doing more than 10 cycles, usually on that one like setting.
Because even that 10 will take a long time
Takes
because
forever.
there's speeches, people are messing up speeches, like, and obviously people that never in the
delays
academy,
it.
they don't know all that. But I'm just saying, like, it does get delayed a lot more. And I'd be doing 1,300 reps in a very, I would just do it back to back. You know what I mean? Like I was crushing myself in cycles. I knew every single code in that code book. I knew the entire law enforcement code of ethics. I came prepared, bro.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. I think it's that mindset is, you know, like I said, like I'm not the smartest dude, but I'll outwork anybody in the room. Yeah. And whether that's true or not, if you have the mindset that you'll outwork everybody in the room, I guarantee you that will drive you to work harder.
It will. And I guarantee you that will make you successful in what you do. Whatever it is you do.
And you might not be the hardest worker in the room, but if you have the mindset you're the hardest worker, I guarantee you on a personal level, it's going to drive you to work harder.
It will. So obviously you kill it there. It's kind of funny because they didn't hire you. And I remember I was at your graduation, and I remember I was close to the front, and usually the brass or like the command staff of the sheriff's department sits in the front. And I think it was the undersheriff at the time. He asked like, why didn't we hire that guy? Because he knew I was a deputy there. And I heard like murmurs in the front that basically you hadn't got hired with them. Mm-hmm. And I know for a fact, I could see his face because I was up there. He was not happy because they didn't know why, but I knew that they were losing good applicants at the time. And you were one of the good applicants they lost. And especially as like an undersheriff, it's like, why the hell is the guy that's graduating top of the class with 5 awards
out of their academy?
Why was he in my backgrounds and then didn't get hired, but got hired by Santa Ana?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So
it is.
You go to Santa Ana, you start field training. How was that?
Field training was good. Obviously, I think I expected it to be a little bit worse as far as like treatment, things like that, just coming from the military and coming from being especially because I knew what the culture was as a boot in the military. So being the new guy, being the boot as a cop, it's obviously very different, bro. Like I'm not saying you're, treated perfectly, but you're treated very well. You're respected. You're not treated like crap. Like it's just different. It's a different environment. So it was a good time. I had good training officers and, I really have no complaints about my FTO time at Santa Ana. Yeah. So,
and obviously I think part of that is like on FTO, like I think Santa Ana has the mentality of like, we want to train you because you're going to be one of our partners. Like, yes, you're the new guy, but we need you to be a good police officer.
Yes.
Because your safety and your partner's safety and the community safety is the utmost importance.
Yes.
So you go through patrol training, you end up landing on a patrol team. So when you work patrol at Santa Ana, I kind of want to dive into this because I know we talk about it a lot. What did you see different as far as like the leadership working at a police agency versus the leadership in like the O3 community or the infantry community you came from?
So, there was a lot of good leaders in the Marine Corps, and there's bad leaders too. I had bad leaders, but I will say some of the best leaders I've ever had were 21-year-old dudes when I was 18.
And why is that, do you think?
Well, and I learned it very early on when I was a corporal and a sergeant is I had to lead my peers. And leading your peers is one of the hardest things you can do. Yeah. And, I saw a lot of my friends this week that I haven't seen in years. And it's funny because, like, they're all good dudes. But when we were in, it was just like, dude, I was their section leader. I was their squad leader. And I still had to do my job as a squad leader or section leader. And I still had to ensure the machine gun section was going to perform and be ready for war. Yeah. And that was it, dude. That's your job. Your job as a machine gun section leader is to make sure these dudes are ready for war, that they can kill people and they can survive. Yeah. And that's it. And, it's very difficult because that's a very hard environment that you have to train people for. And you have to be very hard on them. And anyone that may listen to this that was in my section knows that I was not forgiving with PT. And I wasn't forgiving with a lot of stuff. But I was I could listen to my guys. And I had to learn that very on.
Yeah.
Because early on, my friends were like, hey, dude, what about this? What about this? Or you got to do this. Hey, bro, you're being really hard on this. And I had to take a step back. And instead of being an asshole and being like, well, I'm in charge, you're going to listen to me. Mm-hmm. It was, these are my peers. These are my friends. But I'm still their leader.
Well, I think that's why you can learn those leadership qualities because you have to learn it in an environment like with people that are your friends. Rather than learning leadership in an environment where I've been doing this for 20 years, you're the new guy, you're going to shut your mouth and listen to me because I'm done this forever.
Yeah.
It gives you a lot more of an ego, I feel like, rather than having to lead your peers.
Yeah, it definitely does. And I think that's a big thing with the military. And I think that's why you see such good military or leaders in the military is because, like you said, guys that have to lead their peers, they gain some of the best leadership ability. Now, go to law enforcement. There was a lot of good leaders in law enforcement. I had some phenomenal leaders, dude. The last year I was there, dude, my corporal, my sergeant, dude, they're top-notch leaders, bro. Like, I would work for them any day.
No, there's a lot of good dudes there.
There's a lot of good dudes. But unfortunately, there's a lot of bad leaders too. Yeah. And a lot of the bad leadership is basically guys just looking out for themselves, bro. Guys looking out for themselves and looking out for their own promotion.
Or for their circle.
Their circle, they want that extra stripe. They want that star on their collar. And the military is just not like that, bro. Yeah. The military is not, for the most part. I'm not saying there's not. It's just, you don't see the rank climbers like you do in law enforcement. Law enforcement, there's so many people that just want to climb the ranks, bro.
That's all I care about.
And I don't care what they say because they want to act all hardcore. And they're like, oh, no, man, I want to be a good street cop. No, you don't, bro. You want that fucking star on your collar.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you want, dude.
Well, and even the guys that don't climb the ladder, I mean, because there's guys that don't climb the ladder, but they have pull with people that climb the ladder because they have this ridiculous reputation of like, oh, I'm just the baddest street cop there is. But you're still in the chief's ear talking and getting your way because...
Well, and that's the other issue with law enforcement versus the military, right? So for the military, boots hang out with boots, NCOs hang out with NCOs, staff NCOs and officers hang out, and that is it. Yeah. There's no cross, because if there is a cross of that, then when a corporal messes up, if he's friends with his platoon commander or his lieutenant, you think that guy's going to get punished the same way as the other corporals get punished? Yep. No. That's why there's no cross in that. That's why you can't have that. But in law enforcement, you have commanders hanging out with officers. That's a big issue, dude.
Yeah, where they're buddies.
And that's why you see such inconsistent punishment. You see guys that are not friends with commanders going to IA and getting killed for something stupid, dude. Getting taken or getting put on admin leave or some bullshit for something that's maybe not very serious. And then you guys have dude doing egregious things,
and they're swept under the rug.
And they're not even investigated.
Or here, this one just kind of came to me. I just was thinking about this. Do you remember when all our headshot photos were released?
Yes.
So our headshot photos were released to somebody that requested them on a Public Records Act. Mm-hmm. Said, I want all headshot photographs of every police officer in the city of Santa Ana with their first and last name and the zip code that they live in. Like, just as a cop, that's an officer safety issue, right?
It's a major officer safety
Especially
issue.
when the week prior to that, a local gang in the city drives through our parking structure we park in and says 187 SAPD, which is, anybody doesn't know, 187 means it's the California Penal Code for homicide.
Yeah.
So, but why did that happen?
Apparently, someone got in a fight downtown and they basically wanted to know who it was. And instead of the chief being like, this is who it was, he messed up, it was like, okay, if you don't want to tell us who it was, we'll find who it was if you just give us everyone's headshot photograph.
Yeah.
But it's like, you're now putting the entire department on the line.
Well, the chief did that because I remember during that initial request of, hey, we want to know who this is, it was, hey, we want to know who this is because this guy's always with the chief and we know he's one of the chief's friends.
Yeah.
And the chief's like, I don't want to give out that information. So instead of giving out one person's information that committed a 242 or whatever it was, committed a crime in downtown.
And it wasn't even going to go anywhere. No one's going to file. No one's going to...
But instead of saying, hey, this guy messed up and he was in the wrong, I'm going to crucify my entire department and put them on the line because I'm a scumbag and I don't know how to be a good leader.
Yep. Well, and it's funny too because, obviously there's a big thing and people still talk about it, but they're like people like not doing obs at the time. And I'll just be the first one to say, yeah, I stopped doing obs.
Yeah,
because you can't tell me that's not an officer safety issue. Mm-hmm. And then you had guys in certain camps that were like, it's not a big deal, bro. It's not a big deal. Yeah. How is it not a big deal? You're telling me your headshot and your full name why is your first name not on your uniform as a cop?
Why don't you give out your first name to people?
Yeah.
Why not?
If it's not an officer safety issue.
Why don't you put your first name on social media? Why do you change your name on social media? Why?
A lot of guys don't.
Exactly, because you don't want to know people to know who you are. You don't want to see with your family and all these other things. It's an officer safety issue. But those are the same guys that go out there and same thing as us. I hunt the evil you pretend doesn't exist. Shut up, dude. You're an idiot. Because you're the same guy that's saying that this isn't unsafe for police officers.
But you know what's sad too, and that's kind of like what's really mind-boggling to me about dudes that were in the military that like can't see this shit. Because at the end of the day, when you're a cop, that's the only power you have. Or you'll just get bent over, bro. Remember after the George Floyd riots, I think it was an agency, and I think in Minnesota, they had the blue flu. Dude, if cops took a stand, bro, that one cop in Michigan that just got put on admin leave for I think it was a pit that he did of a wrong way DUI driver.
He ended up going wrong way with the DUI driver, going 80 miles an hour, and pit him because he was basically coming with ongoing traffic, and he got put on admin leave for going wrong way.
And I guarantee you, if every single one of his partners next day said, I'm sick. I'm sick. I can't come in. I'm sick. I can't come in. I guarantee you, and that happened the next day and the day after that, I guarantee that dude would be brought back.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day,
Self-preservation is more important though to a lot of these guys.
self-preservation, because they want to climb the ladder.
Want to climb the ladder.
But that's the only power you have as a cop is you take care of each other, or that's what it should be, and that's what it used to be. Is we take care of each other because that's all the only people that's going to take care
And
of
that's
us.
the problem, dude. And what was my biggest issue is like these weak people. Like, oh, well, I was told I had to do this. I was told I had to write this memo. I was told by my higher up I had to do this. You know, I'm on probation. I might get in trouble, dude. Stand up for what's right. For once in your life, say, you know what? I'm gonna not worry about myself and climbing the ladder. I'm gonna stand for what's right.
I was told, well, I'm on a unit where, you know, everyone respects us, so we just have to wear the masks because we have to be the leaders. So we're gonna wear masks. We're gonna wear masks, guys.
Yeah, hardcore patriots.
Okay, whatever, dude. Put your mask on,
Yeah,
dude.
put your mask on. Keep believing in the lies. Yeah.
It's crazy, bro.
So,
but anyway, like, yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't want to get too much into that. It's just crazy, bro. But yeah, the leadership, unfortunately, I think the biggest difference with law enforcement and the military is ladder climbers and people that just want to take care of their own.
Yeah.
And the military, you see more of we're going to take care of our own. Law enforcement, you see a lot of ladder climbers. And that's it.
And that's what sucks.
So yeah, I was at that agency for a couple years. I enjoyed my time at that agency. I had a lot of really good partners. I had a lot of good friends. A lot of my friends still work there. But it was time to leave, bro. It was time to leave. I saw where law enforcement was going in California with qualified immunity. You see cops. I mean, especially in LA, and that was just bad at the time because of Gascon, you know. But cops getting crucified for just crazy stuff, bro.
Yeah.
And obviously, like Orange County wasn't really like that, but I saw the writing on the wall, bro. The Civilian Oversight Board was coming. Just everything that basically would tie the hands of law enforcement more was coming.
But the sad thing is the people that had the power to do anything about it, like go to city council and fight those things, were the same people that were climbing the ladder. So they had priorities in two areas. They had priorities of, oh, I'm a cop, but a higher priority is I want to be a commander. I want to be this position. So I'm going to go in line with what they want and not say, hey, this is not okay. It's going to affect operationals or the operations of law enforcement and how we do our work.
Yeah, and then, you know, that's the unfortunate thing too is with Santa Ana is, you know, like you said, it was seen as a very good culture there in the past. And when I left, dude, it was so divided and the morale was super low. And I don't care what you say. I don't care what the higher ups say. They want to say it because it makes them feel good about what they're doing. Dude, they killed the morale. They absolutely murdered the morale. And I hope it's getting better now. But just from people that I've been talking to and my friends and a lot of people that I know and people that I don't even usually talk to, apparently it's the same still.
It's gotten worse from what I've heard. But the problem is, and the sad thing about it is, it's the small minority that's the problem there. But the problem is this command staff that has power, they protect the small minority, and that's what divides the culture.
Well, I don't think it's just that. I think it's like in, you know, people talk about like politics and things like that. Oh, we're the silent majority. Well, stop being the silent majority and just be the majority.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Because even the majority, a lot of the majority are still people that don't want to cause waves.
Yep.
I don't want to speak up for what's right because I don't want to be part of it. Dude, you're part of it. You work here. Stand up and say what's right.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, law enforcement, it started going really just a direction that I didn't see myself. I was like, dude, if it's going like this now, what's it going to be like in 20 years?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going to stick around for that. I just won't. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that the department, that Santa Ana, didn't help that decision.
Yeah.
It absolutely helped that decision because I was like, well, one, California's going this way, so how's it going to be in 20 years? And not only that, but I really don't want to work around these dudes for the next 20 years, 30 years. I just don't. I don't want to be around these dudes.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to me, and it's just accepted. And like you said, you either have dudes that are basically like going against the grain of the hierarchy that's there. You have dudes that are falling in line, and then you have people that are just staying quiet because they want to make waves. And I was like, you know what? You guys can figure this out. Like, seriously, like, you know what I mean? I don't want any part of this anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you guys can do this, just dumb shit, this dumb ego, pushing people around, doing what you want for the next 30 years. I'm not going to be here for it.
Yeah.
I won't. That's just crazy to me, bro. I will not be around for that.
It's such an ego thing. And it's like, dude, like, you're not a grown man, bro. Like, you're not. At the end of the day, grown men, like, yeah, you may have pride in yourself, but with that, you treat others right. You take care of others. You that's what a true leader is, and that's what a man should be. But these men that portray themselves as men, they're fake, bro. They just trying to basically not only climb the ladder, but shit on other people to protect yourself. Dude, how does that make you a good person? In general, man, woman, doesn't really matter. You're just a bad person. You're not a good person. It's not someone I want to be around. And that's like, I mean, I'm very similar to you why that happened. But so, okay, so you leave law enforcement in what year?
End of 2021.
2021. And you move right after, right? Or you're in the process of already moving at that point?
Yeah, so I moved right after 2021, and again, it was difficult because it was kind of like leaving the military again. You know, I didn't really feel like I had a purpose. It was very, very hard transition to go from a job like that to going. I went to the electric union, and it was just hard, bro. And it's a lie that we all tell ourselves, and it's a lie that people in the military tell you. It's a lie that people in law enforcement tell you, that basically if you're not in that job, you're basically a fucking loser. You're a loser. You're not worthy. Oh, this is the only job where you're legit. And you feel like that, and you actually sometimes believe it when you leave.
They indoctrinate you with that lie.
They do indoctrinate you with that lie. And so that's a really hard thing with leaving, is like, man, all my friends they're chasing gangsters and I'm installing electrical. Who gives a shit, dude? Cool.
No, it's true.
You know what I mean? But that's how you feel.
That's how you
and
feel.
It's just a dumb mindset, bro. It really is.
Well, it's a selfish mindset, because I feel like it's not that it's 100% honorable to be a police officer.
Absolutely.
But it's not.
I love being a cop.
But it's not honorable to shit on other people because they're not cops. Because at the end of the day, like, it's just as honorable to go out and do electrical work 40, 50, 60 hours a week, not only providing for your family, but providing a way that everybody has first world amenities. You know what I mean? Like,
well, that's the thing too. It's like
contributes to society in a different way.
Yeah, like I appreciate the sacrifice law enforcement make to keep our society safe, but I also heavily appreciate tradesmen that give us a beautiful society to live in, and we don't live in a third world country because of our tradesmen.
You're not pooping in a hole out back, and you're living by candlelight.
And I think that's just the unfortunate thing, not just with like how law enforcement a lot of times view other people, but the unfortunate thing is people in the trades, dude, a lot of times people just look down on them, bro. And honestly, like, those people are assholes. Yeah. My husband's an engineer. My husband's an architect. I don't give a shit. Who installed this? Who built your house?
Well, we get that a lot too as tradesmen.
It's wrong.
My husband's an engineer. Okay, does your husband can't make a plumbing connection? I can guarantee you that.
Oh, cool.
I've seen it.
What does he have an engineering degree in? You know what I mean? Oh, he's an electrical engineer. So you're telling me he knows how to roughen a slab for plumbing? Like, it doesn't even make any sense. It's not the same thing, dude.
Well, people always try to crap on other people, and that's even some tradesmen do that. Tradesmen, you're a plumber and you're giving crap to the guy that does electrical work. Like, hey, bro, you don't know anything about this. Like, you have no idea. Shut your mouth. Like, just stay in your lane. That's the good thing.
As humans, we're just horrible about that stuff. Yeah. But yeah, so I go to the electric union, and it was a hard transition. But the one thing and this is kind of like what I always like go back to for myself, is if I ever go through a hard time, I know I've been there before. Hey, I've been here before, and I'm okay. Like, and that's how I like can kind of approach situations like that. It's okay. I've been here before. It's okay. I've been here before. So I was in that position before. When I first got out of the military, I felt the same way I felt when I left law enforcement. Yeah. And so it wasn't as, I mean, it still sucks, but it was easier to deal with because I'd been there before. And I know that it's going to be okay. And, so I went to the electric union because I needed a job. I didn't have a degree. And the hardest thing is not because I didn't want to go to school, but it's because I had a family and I had to provide for them. And my wife was 2 months pregnant when I left law enforcement, or 4 months pregnant when I left law enforcement. Yeah. You know what I mean? I was like, I have to get a job. I have to get a job. I have to make money. So I went to the electric union, and when I went to the electric union, I started as an apprentice, and I also started my bachelor's online at the time, because I was like, dude, this ain't going to be me. Because it was kind of similar when I went to pest control. Like, a lot of those guys, like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of really good dudes in the union, but there's a lot of guys too that are just punching a clock, bro. And they're just riding out that 10 or 12 hour shift. Oh man, 8 hours left. Let's see how little I can get done and still get paid today. That's the mindset of a lot of people in the union. It's crazy, bro.
Well, it's a lot. I think it's the mindset of a lot of people that work hourly jobs.
Yeah.
Just how little cops like that.
How little can I get done and get paid for 12 hours?
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, this is horrible. Like, I'm that's not the person I am.
Yeah.
It's just, and not only that, but dude, it's everyone, you're getting paid. I'm getting paid 40% of journeyman rate, and I'm doing 90% of the work, and you're sitting on your ass all day.
Well, you're working in an environment where everybody gets paid the same because it's an hourly rate. No, I mean, obviously, short of being an apprentice, but you know what I mean? Everybody gets paid the same regardless of how much work you get done.
It's socialism on a micro scale.
Exactly.
And don't get me wrong, like, I think there's a value in unions. The value is because there's so many asshole employers out there that don't want to pay their people.
Yeah.
So the unions kind of keep it like where you kind of have to keep up.
With the standards.
With the standard.
Yeah.
Now, I think it allows a lot of people that are lazy to get away with stuff that you wouldn't get away with in a normal job. But the good thing is it keeps the wages a little bit better and where they should be. So contractors, or not even just contractors, any employer, they can't just pay their people like shit and they can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It gives power back to the people a little bit. So there's good and bad things about the union. The bad thing is people that do less work get paid the same. The good thing is it helps people get more livable wages.
Yeah. So you worked in the union, and then, so obviously I want to kind of hear your mindset on it. So I moved out here and I'm like, hey dude, I don't have a job. No one's hired me yet. So I'm going to get my plumbing license. I'm going to try to start a plumbing company. And you were like, yeah, I'll do it with you. Let's do it together. But originally you're like, hey, I'm going to keep my job at the union and I'll come work with you on the weekends. And then abruptly that changed. And like, what kind of drove that change in you, or why did you make that decision?
Well, I think, and it's funny because I don't think we've ever even talked about this specifically until now on this podcast. But a big reason I didn't want to stay at the union is because I didn't want you to have to fend for yourself and not have support. Like if you were going to be in it, I was going to be in it. If you were going to struggle, I was going to struggle. I didn't want to be doing super well because I was making decent money at the time at the union. Yeah. I mean, I was making fine. I was doing fine. I had a house, like, you know what I mean? You came out here, you moved into a rental, and I didn't want you to struggle by yourself. So I was like, dude, like, I'm not going to be making good money while you can't even make ends meet. So that was my mindset. That really was. And that's why I left the union. That's why I went all in with you, because I didn't want you to be alone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, like, I don't really know what to say about that. I mean, obviously, dude, like, you know, I love you, and that's what's made a difference in our life, I think, is having each other. I think it made a big difference in our business, bro. Like, I tell everybody this, like, people ask me, we go to business networking events, and they ask, like, hey, have you done it? How have you done it? How have you grown your company? You know, you guys blew past $1 million your first year. Like, how did you do it? And it's like, I tell everybody, it's like, dude, it's a team. Like, it's me and my brother, and that's the only reason we were able to do it, because doing it alone, dude, I couldn't imagine doing it alone. It'd be so difficult to do alone. I mean, just because the way we operate our company is, you know, we run a dispatch center, we run, you know, calls, we have large jobs going on, and like as we obviously grow those things, we can employ people and do that. But in the beginning, like, that we were it, bro. Like, that was it.
Well, and I think too, having a business partner like that, like a good business partner, I'm not just saying go into business with anyone, but a good business partner, dude, like, you keep each other level-headed. And when I'm not in it, and because, dude, there's plenty of days where my morale's low and I'm just like, dude, this sucks, bro. Like, what are we doing, man? We're barely making it by now. Or some days we're like, oh, we're doing really well. And then, but it's always like
highs and lows.
It's either me or you pulling each other back and being like, hey, dude, we're doing it where it's okay. Or it's like days where like we're super pissed, or you're super pissed, or I'm super pissed. And thankfully, usually when you're super pissed, I'm not really pissed. And when I'm super pissed, you're not really pissed.
The days we're both pissed is a bad day.
But that doesn't really happen. And that's the good thing. Is like, you know, we're able to reel each other back and be like, dude, it's okay. Or we're just able to listen like, yeah, bro, I know it sucks, dude. I know it sucks. You know what I mean? And that really does, I think, help.
Yeah, because I think a startup in general, it sucks ass. Startups suck. And I don't ever want to do a startup again. You know, I will. But hopefully when I go up to my next startup, hopefully I have money in my pocket.
You'll have capital.
Exactly. Because you do a startup with no money, it sucks. But having somebody to do it with you, it makes all the difference.
Well, and even simple stuff like getting loans and stuff. You have two people that can get loans. You have two things, you know what I mean?
For vehicles, everything.
So I mean, leaving the union, it was difficult, but you know, I'm very grateful for my time there too. I truly believe I could wire an entire residential home with no problem. I know it's not hard, bro. Mm-hmm. Like I know how electrical works. Everything electrical we've done at this company, unless it's something I don't want to do, I've done it. I've wired up plenty of things at this company. We've ran wire plenty of times. Like, we've done the electrical stuff that we've needed for our plumbing side. Yeah. And we can usually do it in house. And the only times we don't do it in house is just because it's like, dude, let's just hire my buddy. Like, we have other stuff we need to do. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it really is beneficial, obviously, knowing that trade as well. But obviously it was a good time. Part of me was like, yeah, man, I wish I would be able to finish it and actually get my journeyman license. But it doesn't change anything, bro. No. You know how many guys don't go through an apprenticeship that get their journeyman card? Yeah. You know what I mean?
I think going from that to like owning a business, and this is for me personally, and I think you're similar, like, how much has that opened up like your mental like space to what's possible in this world? Like, and like really what your skill set is now, like where you can articulate, dude, I could come in and I can grow your business to $1 million in a year because I know how to run marketing. I know how to scale a business. I know how this payroll works. I know how, human resources work. I can run a business from start to finish.
Well, and I think everyone values different things. Like for me, I heavily value knowledge and education. I end up finishing, I know I didn't mention it, but I ended up finishing my bachelor's this year. And so I have my bachelor's now. Is it doing anything for me? No, because I own my own company. But I heavily value knowledge. But you have to learn that about yourself too, that knowledge doesn't always mean money.
No.
You know what I mean? Just because you get the knowledge, just because you got that skill. Oh, but I really wanted to get my journeyman card. Cool. Are you going to make more money as a business owner? No. It's just something that you want to attain to have a checkbox. You know what I mean? And so that's a hard thing too for a lot of people is, dude, don't get so wrapped up in just being like, I just want to learn. I just want to learn. You should learn. Learn stuff that's going to make you money though. Don't just learn to learn. Learn what's going to make you money.
Yeah.
That's what you should be learning.
Well, I think that's where your mindset has shifted and my mindset has shifted where it's like, it really is learning a different way. Mm-hmm. So with that, Jacob, thank you for being on Against the Grain. Guys, stay tuned. We'll be here for episode 4, 2 weeks, and stay with us. Thank you.